Jeez, chill.
Alright, so today I'm going to talk about reverse aging. And you might be wondering kind of what that is, since we all have an age. We actually have two different ages, so I'll talk a little bit about that. What is aging and why do we age? So cellular senescence is the loss of a cell's power of division and growth that contributes to its aging. So there are 9 signs of aging. We see genomic instability, telomere attrition, epigenetic alterations, loss of proteostasis, deregulated nutrient sensing, mitochondrial dysfunction, cellular senescence, stem cell exhaustion, and altered intercellular communication. So all of those 9 signs of aging, they contribute to age-related diseases such as dementia, Alzheimer's, cancer. So researchers are trying to figure out how to stop aging. So we would virtually eliminate all of those diseases. So David Sinclair and Leonard Duran were the 2 scientists to start the research. And so they were testing biological age, which is how well your body functions. And then chronological age is how many years you've lived on Earth. And we each have a biological clock, and it's called the telomere. And so it's attached to the end of your DNA, and as your cells divide, it clips off a little bit of the telomeres, and once all of the telomeres are gone is when you pass away. Without cellular senescence, we would be able to practically achieve immortality, with the exception of disease would still be able to kill us off, but we wouldn't die of old age. So I have a video of why we age.
While many search for the proverbial fountain of youth, you might be wondering, why do we age in the first place? What is it about our bodies or cells biologically that causes us to grow old? There's a variety of internal and external factors such as diet, exercise, or environmental stress, which all contribute to cell damage and repair and affect the rate of aging. But the surprising truth is that, apart from these, we actually have a biological clock buried within our genetic makeup. And this clock can only run for so long. In other words, we're programmed to die. Your body is made up of trillions of cells, which are constantly going through cell division, and every time they divide, they make a copy of their DNA as well. This DNA is tightly packed into structures called chromosomes, of which humans have 23 pairs. The problem is, DNA replication isn't quite perfect and skips over the end of each chromosome. To protect against important DNA information being cut out, we have something called telomeres on the end of chromosomes, which are essentially meaningless repeats of DNA that we can afford to lose. But every time our cells divide, these telomeres become shorter and shorter until eventually they've been entirely stripped away, at which point the cell no longer divides. Some flatworms are able to endlessly regenerate their telomeres, making them effectively biologically immortal. But their lifespans do vary, and they're still susceptible to disease, further suggesting that aging is a mix of genetic and environmental factors. But why don't our cells do this? Ultimately, this replication limit actually helps to prevent cancer, which is the uncontrollable growth of cells and evasion of cell death. The point at which a cell stops replicating is known as cellular senescence. In humans, this replication limit is around 50 times. Once it's reached, the cell gradually begins to lose its function and die, causing age-related characteristics. This also helps to explain why life expectancy is a strongly heritable trait from your parents, because you got your initial telomere length from them. Got a burning question you want answered? Ask it in the comments.
Alright, so that video just kind of further explains why we age and how telomeres play an important role of aging. So
Josh, hit escape. And then present again.
Alright, so SIR2, it's SIR2 is what it stands for. It's a gene that controls aging in yeast cells. So yeast cells are single-celled organisms that eat starches and sugars, and scientists originally started looking at them for aging and like the properties of why yeast cells really don't age either. So they were studying those, and they also, while studying, they found NMN, which stands for nicotinamide mononucleotide, and it enhances the blood vessel growth and extends cell life. It boosts stamina and endurance and reverses a key aspect of the aging process. And it was identified as the mechanism behind vascular aging and muscle decline. So as you age, you lose NMN, and it contributes to your muscle failure, and that's why a lot of people get old, like develop arthritis and stuff like that, and they're not able to do as much as they were able to do when they were younger. So after looking at these yeast cells, they started looking at other animals, and so obviously they always went to the rat. So they decided to study the rat, and they injected them with NAD plus and SIR2. NAD plus is an enzyme that we lose when we age, and SIR2 is a protein that plays a critical role that stimulates conversation between the endothelial cells, which are the layer of cells that line blood vessels, and the muscle cells. So it would enhance the blood vessel growth and the muscle function. So they injected them with that, and then they found out that they have 56% to 80% greater exercise capacity as they age. So they do not lose their exercise capacity or any muscle tissue when they're injected with that. So David Sinclair, he decided to further research, and he found a substance called resveratrol, and it helps activate SIR2 naturally, and so that would help slow aging. And then resveratrol, he found that's in grapes, blueberries, raspberries, mulberries, and peanuts, which is why they say wine is healthy for you, because resveratrol helps keep your muscles and blood vessels strong and prevents against heart disease. It also lowers your risk of getting cancer. So I have another video of Dr. David Sinclair, and he's just going to talk about NMN a little bit further and how it can reverse aging.
Hi, I'm David Sinclair, and I'm a professor at Harvard Medical School, and our goal is to extend healthy human lifespan. You might remember a few years ago, my lab discovered a molecule in red wine called resveratrol that extended the healthy lifespan of mice. Well, what we want to do now, with your help, is to try a new molecule that we think could be many, many times better than that. In fact, it doesn't seem to just delay aging, but actually reverse it. What we'd like to do is test this new molecule called NMN in a mouse and see if it slows down its aging process and makes it live longer. And this would be the first step towards extending human lifespan. And you would be some of the first people to help and learn about whether this is going to be possible. So normally mouse experiments take many years, but we've developed a mouse that actually accelerates the aging process so that we can get results within months instead of years. You may have seen these mice on a show that Katie Couric did on her Yahoo channel recently. Your donations will enable us to buy the NMN molecule and to give it to the mice and see if it will slow down and reverse the aging process. We'll test many things in these mice. We want to see if they can run further, hear better, and live longer in a healthy way. We have a fantastic team who I'd love you to meet, who are working on a variety of topics to help us slow down and reverse aging, ranging from yeast to mice, and even human cells and stem cell technology. Success in this project will open the doors to working with you on these other projects, eventually leading to human clinical trials and showing for the first time that we can actually slow down human aging. So join us in our quest to reversing aging I think you'll find it one to be extremely rewarding. We find ourselves at a turning point in human history. 100 years from now, people will look back at today and wonder, why didn't we work harder on this problem? It will be like we look back at the age before antibiotics. And we have a chance together to accelerate this research. This is a future that's coming, and whether it arrives during our lifespan or our future generations is up to us.
Alright, so a little bit more background. So they researched more on naked mole rats, because naked mole rats are actually a specific type of rat that does not age. They're killed off by disease instead. So this happened at the University of California at Los Angeles, and they found out that the risk of death does not depend on their age. Naked mole rats have highly active DNA repair and high level of chaperones, which are proteins that help other proteins fold correctly, so they don't have like genetic mutations or anything like that. So due to their highly active DNA repair and their lack of genetic mutations, they're highly resistant to cancer, so it's very improbable that a naked mole rat will have cancer, which can also be linked to age. So these rats are like very good test subjects. So they found high molecular weight hyaluronin, which is a molecule that these rats produce, and it causes their high resistance to cancer. And humans actually produce this molecule, but they produce it in so small amounts that it really doesn't make a difference. So they started giving these rats senolytic drugs, which eliminate the senescent cells, and just kind of, like from the first video it says that if our cells just never senesced, that they would keep dividing and it would lead to cancer. Well, these senolytic drugs would just eliminate those cells so that it would be able to virtually keep dividing, and then when there's too many, it would just kill them off. So the treatment with the senolytic drugs might prevent damage to cells, and it restores physical function, and it's used in naturally aging mice, and it might, like, they injected it into the naturally aging mice, and it extended their lifespan by 36%. So Beclin-1 is a gene that scientists mutated to enhance autophagy, which is the natural process that your body does to remove toxins. And this also expanded the lifespan by 10%. So mice with the mutated genes were less likely to have heart disease, kidney problems, and cancer related to their age. So this Beclin-1 would play a great role, in fact, like in America, because of all of the toxins that we put into our body, like pop and stuff like that, and like fast food, which actually harm us more. And it would help us reduce toxins that way and help us to fight off like heart disease and cancer. So they studied further on these rats, and they found out the mole rat risk of death was 1 to 10,000. So, like, they have a 1 in 10,000 chance of dying each day that they live. And actually, it's supposed to go up. Naturally, it would go up, but with the mole rats, the risk of death goes down with their age. So they have a greater chance of dying when they're younger than they do when they're older. So for humans, it goes up exponentially. Every 8 years after age 30, the risk of death doubles. So it comes from this Gompertz law. In 1825, it was discovered by a British mathematician, Benjamin Gompertz. And it just kind of shows you, like, when you're younger, you have when you're first born, you have a high risk of death, and then as you get older and your immune system starts functioning better, it just kind of, like, comes down here and then it goes back up the whole way up to here. But it does not ever touch 100%, so, which is kind of interesting because it's like a certain death, but humans actually do not have, like, their risk of death increases until a specific age, which I'll talk about later. So, mole rats' risk of death with age, it declines, as I said, when they get older, and then in humans, it will actually stop. So their risk of death at 105, which is the maximum longevity age is what they call it. At 105, you have the same chance of dying, turning to 106 as you do if you're 212 turning to 213. So this implies that humans have not reached their maximum age lifespan yet. So the current maximum age of longevity is 122, which is the oldest person that has ever lived. And so this lady is Rosa Rain, and she's like a great example. She was 111, and she lived to 112. And they studied her for a long time, like those 7 years that she was alive, and found that her risk of death did not change at all. So they believe that like she was a good test subject because she had reached the 105 longevity age, and she still lived well after that functionally, and she was able to do a lot of things herself. So I'm going to talk a little bit of environmental factors on aging and how the environment may impact us a lot more rather than our genes. So there are ways to naturally slow aging through food choice, exercise, and supplements. Some of the food choices that slow aging are like watercress, red bell peppers, papayas, blueberries, broccoli, spinach, nuts, avocados, sweet potatoes, and pomegranate seeds. And they're all packed with essential vitamins that can actually just slow aging rather than a researcher doing it in a lab. Exercising helps keep the body healthy and help it function. Supplements provide you with nutrients that you might not get enough of and help keep you active and healthy. Vitamin A and C help protect the immune system, and these vitamins are essential to keeping the body at a young age. On the next slide, cortisol impacts humans in a negative way. It's called the stress hormone, and it causes a human to have high blood pressure, depression, decreased immune system function, and many more negative effects, as you can see here. Managing stress can actually add 10 years onto your life, and the way it does that is when you're stressed, your cells die rapidly, so which causes them to divide more and shorten the length of your telomeres. So if you can decrease your stress, then your cells don't die as fast, which is why, like, if you're stressed, your hair color cells will die, and that's how you'll get gray hair faster. So you can prevent that by just managing stress, and it will actually add years onto your life. You can also protect your skin from UV rays, which UV rays target your skin cells and will destroy them, and which will also shorten the length of your telomeres. Smoking also shortens the length of your telomeres, and surprisingly, sugar also does too. So if you eat a large amount of sugar, then that also will take away from your telomeres. Alcohol consumption dries out the skin and causes it to age quickly, so by reducing alcohol consumption, you can increase telomere length. Loneliness, humans are actually very social animals and they're not meant to be alone, so that would also increase your telomere length. And sleeping more than 7 hours per night, which was interesting because they did some research on older people, like senior citizens who sleep more than 7 hours per night, and they compared the length of their telomeres to middle-aged people, and they found that they actually had the same length of telomeres as when they slept 7 hours per night as they did with the middle-aged people. So a little bit of controversy on it. There's really not much besides the fact that humans could potentially reach immortality. Also, population control is very big, so we would have so many people if this happened, and not enough resources to keep them alive. And then it's also the fact of playing God, because researchers, like, even though you can do this naturally, researchers want to create something in the lab where they can just inject you with like specific chemicals to help keep your body alive. So my opinions before I did this, I thought it was very cool. I was also intrigued by aging very much, and I was interested in how some people look younger than their actual age, which actually was sparked by my job. I always see these people at this retirement community, and like, even when they die and their obituary gets printed, like there was a lady who recently passed. She was 90, and she still had her original red hair color. She didn't really have wrinkles, and she got around pretty well, so I thought that was very cool how she was able to stay young and alive for that long. Afterwards, I hope that researchers can slow aging, because I think it would be very beneficial to us if, you know, if we could live longer, and just kind of think it would be nice. I still find it very interesting, but I'm somewhat fearful of the immortality aspect, because honestly, I wouldn't want to live forever, but I would like to live longer, so. Here are my references.